Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Um, Sad as it is, I gotta tell y'all, man, look, the Obamas are bad news for Black America, and I think Black America knows this. As a matter of fact, the Obamas are bad news for the Black world, not just in the U.S. but in the Americas. To be fair, but let me tell y'all this though: the Obamas also have been counteracted by a litmus test, if you will. The reaction to the Obamas has shown the role that the Black Manosphere has played in the mental liberation of not only Black America, but the Black world, certainly the Black Anglosphere. When Barack set up and tried to tell all these brothers in Pittsburgh that they needed to vote for Kamala or they were misogynists, Black men said, okay, see, you just costed her some votes now. Because a lot of brothers were going to vote for her, and a lot of brothers did. But I honestly think that he costed her votes because the Black Manosphere was the influence in the minds of many Black men that said, you don't get to tell us to do that. And now Michelle Obama has refused to attend a particular function that ex presidents' wives attended, leaving Barack to show up by himself, not because she was ill, not because she was dead, but because she just didn't feel like going. And every time she does something that's seen as a slight, the sisterhood sitting up clapping, saying, yes, yes, you speak for us. No, Michelle doesn't. Well, you know what? Michelle shouldn't be able to speak for you because she's got Secret Service protection and she's a former president's wife and she's worth so much. I mean, let's call it what the hell it is. If Michelle was a little bit lighter skinned, you'd be like, no, she don't speak for us. She don't represent us. But since she's visibly recognizable as a sister and she's hell on wheels to her husband, y'all say she speaks for you. You all have the nerve to say dumb stuff like this. Oh, she speaks for us. She's given voice to our frustrations and our exasperations. Um, Let me remind y'all that just like you've had sisters that were in the struggle, both in the US and in other parts of the Americas, whose names we hear and forgotten, whose names we don't know. Just like you have these women, you also have several of them that were traitors. The Mali revolt in Brazil was betrayed by two brasileiras pretas. Yeah, damn shame, but that's what happened. They found out and they ratted and told, and that forced the members of the Malay revolt, the Malay conspirators, to turn around and push the dates up and start everything before they had planned and fully prepared. And they still were highly effective when you consider what they were up against. I'm telling you guys now that the Obamas are bad news for the black population, and that's regardless of nationality. Barack ain't FBA. And I'm not saying that to deride him. I'm saying that just as a distinction, he's not FBA. He has more FBA ancestry through his white mom than he does through his black Kenyan father. And that's not his fault or his dad's fault or his mom's fault. That's just DNA. But the issue is that Michelle does not look at him and say, well, since he's not FBA, I'm going to give him a pass and not try to emasculate him. No, she emasculates him as much as she possibly can and then brings him onto the show to emasculate other brothers and tell them that they need to seek out mentors that are intimately interested in their own gender. That is very problematic. And he doesn't fight back. Now, there was a time when all these racists were saying nasty things about her and him without evidence, without proof. They were just saying it because this was a black couple that was going for the White House and about to win it. And they did live in that White House for 8 years. Now, Barack, as far as his politics go, ain't black enough for me. Not black American enough. That doesn't matter. But he ain't black enough, period. It's his policies. I mean, he was not going to do nothing that was just for black folks, even though that's the right thing to do. He wasn't even good news for his home continent. He tried to push their governments to be more legally accepting of booty banditry. And they said, oh, hell no. They don't they don't tolerate that. That's one thing that has to be kept in mind and remembered. That they don't tolerate that stuff in the Caribbean nor on the home continent for the most part. And that's one of the reasons that Yvette Carnell was so gung ho about delineating our lineage. It wasn't about reparations, if you really want to know the truth. It was about her lifestyle. There you have it right there. So, with that being said, Michelle has cut Barack no slack for being of another nationality. Doesn't make a difference. He's black and he's a man, and she's got to dominate. And that's why I tell you, black men, that it is not our job to get caught up in these nationality wars that other folks have. I tell you that for that reason. Because the misandrists amongst our race do not stop at a nationality and they don't fib a guck about yours. It's just like the devil when it comes to race. Satan does not really fib a guck about race when it comes to human beings. He just wants human beings to care about race and fight and be unfair to each other. Satan does not like human beings in general. He just hates black folk a little bit more because of our resemblance to Adam and Eve. Because the original human beings look like that. But he doesn't necessarily love non-blacks or white folks. He just sees them as tools to use against black folks. And then if they actually succeeded in wiping out black folks from the human population, he would turn them on each other because they listen to him. They meaning human beings. And it's the same thing when it comes down to these nationality beefs and wars with black folks. The sistren do not fib a guck about nationality. If you are black and you are a man, they don't like you. They want to emasculate you. But they would love for us black men to get caught up in that stuff. And then when it takes on a role of its, when it takes on a life of its own, and the men are deeply entrenched in this and can't get out, then they'll turn around and be like, well, we've been trying to make peace. But you know, these men, they just full of testosterone and they want to blow the world up. Well, let me ask you this. Does testosterone tell men to be interested in women, or does it tell men to be interested in violence? That's my question. The women simply aren't interested in men enough, and therefore they sit back and wait to see who wins the contest of violence. And that's some animal shit right there. That's not even humane. That's where the men's interest in violence comes about, is self-defense or to protect resources, or because that's what women demand. And women will tell you that. I mean, 30 years ago, women would not sit up and say, well, we just like violent men. We think that violence in men is sexy. Even if we're church women ourselves, they wouldn't tell you that. Now they'll sit up and say, yeah, and so what? But, I look at the black manosphere and I say, well, thank God for the black manosphere. Because the black manosphere analyzes this and says, no more animal instinct, not as a criteria. I mean, human beings are going to have certain animal instincts, but no more is that going to be a criteria for worthiness. We're not building civilizations on stuff like that. So consequently, um, what Michelle Obama said to Stephen A. Smith, and really what her guest said, and how she supported what the guest said, even though it wasn't her direct quote, um, was nasty, cruel, and cold as hell. But I will also state this, to be fair, that, well, it was rightly identified by the black male population as some emasculating BS. And Michelle is recognized by black America as exactly what the hell she is. All these things that the racists used to say about the Obamas because they were racist. And now things that she and Barack are willing to actually justify them saying by trying to make true because they're idiots. But it also goes to show you that if you really want to neutralize black resistance to white supremacy, you got to go find and look for a specific black man that won't oppose it. But you could just grab any sister and she won't oppose it. And that's heartbreaking. You could blindfold yourself and just grab the first sister you get your hands on, and she will very likely not oppose white supremacy, but you got to go looking for the right black man that ain't going to oppose it, whatever his nationality is. And that's what's bothersome about all of this. This is why it is that black love is dead. It's over. It's done with. Black love is, I mean, my brother's married to a black woman, and I'm glad that they're married because she's really good to him and he's good to her. But they are, now they're a childless couple, and that's okay. I'm not blaming them for that. They didn't meet until they were old, both of them. I mean, kind of old. But by the same token, they can't pass this on. And even if they could pass it on, who would their kids marry? Especially if they had a son. What black woman is he going to be able to marry and stay married to her? She'll exist, but how the hell will he find her? She ain't gonna come looking for him, even if she wants him. So what does that leave? And now, if they had a daughter, she'd have options in men, but black men would know not to approach her because we already know black men, Western men in general, are learning don't approach women. And neither of them has the mindset to teach her how to approach a man. So she's stuck by herself. Because if she's a good woman, she's going to be told by other women, you don't go after a man. Okay, so now there's nobody. So I'm teaching my kids as much as I possibly can. And my son is married to a non black woman. Marrying a sister was not an option. And certainly not someone cute. And that wasn't his fault either. It wasn't up to him. But now he's happy and he's nice to her and she's nice to him. And he's actually quickly picking up their language, or rather his wife's first language. From my understanding, he's picking that up more quickly than she's advancing in English. So that tells me a lot. That tells me a good bit. And I've been in that situation before. I was married to a woman that was not an English speaker at all. His wife speaks it, but she doesn't. She thinks she doesn't speak it very well, but she's just not fast. That's all. I was married to a woman that was not an English speaker. She didn't know the F word until she asked what's the worst word in the English language, and I told her the F word. I told her that's the one you don't want to say. Unless you're telling me to do it, you don't want to say it. And that's in private. I had explained the meaning of that to her. All these movies that have subtitles written in local languages at the bottom while the soundtrack is still in English, and she did not know what the worst word in the English language was. She didn't even know that it had a direct translation in Arabic. She had no clue. I've been in that situation before. And the thing is that I was married to a black woman that just wasn't that proud of being black until I corrected her. And she took the correction, but by then it was too late for other reasons. That would have been a saved black love story. But even in my own family, the black love that does exist is it's at its end now. And I'm married to a black woman. Now, we don't have kids between us. And again, it ain't nobody's fault. But um, nonetheless, this is something that a lot of families are facing. It's pretty much said and done with, and it was never brothers that were putting it into black love. It was never them. The power was always in women's hands. Once couple formation is not limited to marriage, then it is then almost exclusively the decisions about couple formation are in the hands of women. Especially if couple formation starts with sex early on without marriage being a part of it. Guess what the hell that means? It's almost exclusively in the hands of women, by women's own, by men and women's own admissions. It's in the hands of women. And so therefore, if black couples cannot form and stay together, it was the decision of black women. And Michelle is pretty much showing that to be the case. But thankfully, this time now, there's a black manosphere to point this out to black men. But let this be a lesson again. It doesn't matter. This nationality beef, again, you can see that it ain't no sister that cares that much about a black man's nationality when they seek to emasculate. They don't give a rat's behind. Barack, being the U.S. president, is in fact a U.S. citizen, but his lineage was not FBA, especially through his dad's side, ironically. And yet and still, even with that, she didn't fiv a guck. She didn't say, well, you're not an FBA, and so therefore you're not really part of the problem. Let me respect your manhood. No, it's you're black. I'm not going to respect your manhood. I'm going to diminutize it. I'm staying with you because I can have all this sister girl attitude with you, win the approval of my friends at your expense. So I'm staying with you for that. I can roll my eyes, roll my neck, snap my fingers in a metaphorical sense with you, and the sisterhood claps for me. So that's really your value. You earn a living for me better than what I would have earned for myself, and that would have been a nice one, but you earned even better living for me, and I could sit up here and give all this attitude in exchange and talk about how hard it was to be with you. The same as I would if you were FBA and had never done anything and fit every negative stereotype. I can talk about you the same way, and I get points with the sisterhood. And you stay put. Oh, this is great. The fact that he's not FBA didn't make a goddamn bit of difference. It gave him no leeway when it came to her. And this is why I'm saying to you, brothers, do not get caught up in this stuff. Because the gender warriors don't fiv a guck. They just want you to care, much like the devil doesn't really care about race. He don't like human beings, but he loves it when human beings get caught up in race and fight each other based on that. And since he couldn't get black folks to hate every other race, he decided to get white folk to hate every other race and then get every other race to look down on black folk. And since that was a smashing success, he'll just keep on going with that. Same thing. So no, don't go boycotting or fighting with your black cousin because of what some gender warriors want. We can hash out our differences internally without non-black folks getting involved or profiting from our arguments in any way. We could do it that way, handle it like a family affair. We got this. You sit your butt out. You better not say nothing about it. But we cannot sit up. We cannot afford to be sitting up here at each other's throats as men based on nationality when the woman of his nationality and the woman of our nationality are sitting in these hair salons talking to each other, plotting this whole thing, and our dumbasses are listening and carrying it out. That's why I'm not going to sit up here and say, well, let's go and sue these African nations and let Europe and white America off the hook. Are you nuts? The role that Africa did play, Africa's paid for and then some. Even the Middle Eastern nations have had to pay for what they've done. I mean, they've suffered for what they've done. They haven't gotten away with their role in the slave trade that targeted Africa. And they never even really targeted Africa. The Middle East, to be fair, never singled Africa out for the slave trade. That decision was made for them. They didn't make that decision on their own the way Europe did. Just to be fair. And yet the Middle East has had to pay. Just to be fair, Africa's had to pay. But Europe ain't paid, and white America ain't paid, and Australia and Israel have not paid. New Zealand has not paid. They've gotten away with what they've done, and yet somebody wants to turn around and go and sue black folk and let white folk off the hook with permission from white folk to sue these other black folks, of course they're going to give that. And Obama's has shown us so much, but so too is a black manosphere, and I thank God for it. I hope that what I've said helps out and clear some things up for you. As always, black heart, black mind, black out, assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual non-select male power because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day. Thank you for flying with us again here on Jet Black Air, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender, justice, forever.